All right, good evening, everybody. Please take your seats. Good evening. This meeting is called to order, and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, December 17th, 2024, and the time is now 6 p.m. For those of you who have already seen the agenda, we do have a closed-door attorney-client shade meeting. But let's begin first with the roll call. We'll come back to the agenda after the shade meeting, followed by invocation led by Pastor Bryce Hudson from Christ Fellowship Church, which will then be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Thomas Durkin. City Clerk, let's turn to you for the roll call first.
Mayor Penserga?
Here.
Vice Mayor Kelly is absent. Commissioner Cruz?
Here.
Commissioner Hay?
Here.
Commissioner Turkin?
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Pastor, if you'd like to do us the honor. Let's all stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads. Well, Father, we come before you in this season of celebration and a reminder that we have a greater hope. And in this season and even in this meeting tonight, we pray that we would look towards that hope as this commission, as this committee, as the agenda items that they speak of tonight, that ultimately it would honor you, that this would be a community that is a beacon of light and hope to all around, to know that you have done an amazing work through this council, Father, through this past year. And as we look back, we get to see all the amazing things that you've done, but believing what you will do through this community in the years to come. So we are honored to get to sit here tonight, to have life and breath, knowing that it's ultimately from you we have all of that. In your name we praise. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Pastor. Before we move on to our closed-door attorney-client shade meeting, I'd like to ask my colleagues if they're comfortable with, we have a speaker here this evening, School Board Member Edwin Ferguson, if they're comfortable just moving up that item.
Yes.
Is there any objection to that?
No.
Council? Okay.
I'm just wondering how long you think it'll be, only because we do have a court reporter waiting, so that it's fine. It's not.
Board member, you're okay with it? Okay, all right.
Okay.
So we do have a shade meeting thereafter, not a problem. All right, thank you. Go ahead, council, do read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that in accordance with section 286.011 subsection 8 Florida statutes, the City of Boynton Beach Commission will hold a closed attorney-client shade meeting on Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter. At the City of Boynton Beach City Hall, room 440, located at 100 East Ocean Avenue, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33435, to discuss the following litigation. Boynton Beach Little League, DBA, East Boynton Beach Little League plaintiff versus City of Boynton Beach defendant, Palm Beach County Circuit Civil Division AF Court Number 2024 CA 000517. Following the commencement of the City Commission meeting, the City Commission will move into a closed attorney-client shade meeting. The meeting will be attended by Mayor Ty Penserga, Commissioner Angela Cruz, Commissioner Woodrow Hay, Commissioner Thomas Turkin, City Manager Daniel Duggar, Deputy City Manager Andrew Mack, City Attorney Shauna Lamb, Deputy City Attorney Stacy Wenger, and the court reporter Wendy Smith. Approximately 30 to 60 minutes will be needed. Following the conclusion of the closed attorney-client shade meeting, the City Commission will resume its regularly scheduled City Commission meeting. Public business will be concluded at that time, and the meeting will be adjourned.
All right, thank you, council. Normally, this is the point where we recess for the shade meeting, but I'd like to call up School Board Member Mr. Ferguson to give us an update of education.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon to the commission, city attorney, city manager. I'll be brief, but and to all the Boynton, I want to say happy holidays. It's always good to be here. You know, if we're in another school year, you're going to see me here communicating with you all to give you all an update on how our District 7 schools are performing and also how the school district is performing at large. Oh. All right, thank you. So anyone who would like to look at the information that I'm reviewing, you can scan this This happens every year. I'm gonna have to bring an assistant to do this thing for me. You can scan that QR code before I get started, so all of the information that I'm gonna be discussing, you can look at it at your leisure. But there's a treasure trove of information there that I would really, really encourage every resident of Boynton Beach to kind of dig into, kind of understand, and if you have questions, you know, ask us. But I think there's a lot of great information in there. In respect of the shade session, I just say closed session down to the district.
Closed session, same
New
thing.
terminology. I'm gonna blow through this a little bit, but I will represent to you. First of all, thanks again for doing something that I don't think has been done in the county. That large amount of money that you all earmarked for your schools, I believe it is already bearing fruit in terms of performances. So when you look through the respective schools in District 7, but then also the city at large, you'll see that there has definitely been a bump, and I think it's an appreciable bump. So again, I want to thank you all for being bold, trying something new, not just doing the same old thing and expecting a different result. So again, I say thank you to all of you for that, and I know our students and their families are thanking you as well. Again, there are a lot of hyperlinks inside of this slide deck that you can click on at your leisure. Early education is really the bedrock of education. Kids who start behind tend to stay behind. Those who start ahead generally tend to stay ahead. And so there's a lot of information in there that I would encourage us to encourage our parents, particularly of the 1, the 2, the 3-year-old kids, to try to master these words and things of that nature, because it will bear fruit exponentially once they get into kindergarten and moving forward from there. And again, I'm just trying to be as brief as possible so that you all can get to their closed session meetings. But as you can see from the charts here, we have the last 5 years inclusive of this school year. And you can see that going into the school year 23, which was last year, most of the schools in District 7, and I think citywide, there was a dip in English, in math, social studies generally not, but in English and math for sure, and science. But I see that there has been for most of the schools, there has been an increase since you all contributed that additional money for additional resources to be provided to our schools. So again, I say thank you for that. Again, I'm just being very brief here. Again, you can see the dotted line for those who have not attended these meetings when I've come in the past. That's what the district-wide average is. So for example, for science, you can see that the district-wide average of students who are proficient, a level 3 or above, in my mind, C or better, 50%. Not necessarily great, but again, you can see where the city of Boynton schools compare in relation to that. And so again, we're always looking to do better and looking to do more. And you can see that while our scores are below the district average, across, at least in District 7, I do see growth there. And so there's something that we can build on. And so I never am a Debbie Downer, so to say. I'm always looking for the positive of things. And so I do see growth there. And if our parents continue to engage, and again, this slide deck that I have, there's a lot of tutorials and things that parents and other parties can do at home that can help bear fruit in terms of their children's aptitude in these various examinations. So I would encourage persons to take advantage of that as well. All right. Okay. So I want to push through this, and I want to get to a couple of things that are not set forth in the slide deck. Absenteeism. I've been to 2 different conferences across the country already, the Council of Great City Schools and the Florida School Board Association. From Florida to Hawaii, absenteeism is a huge issue. A lot of our kids are just not going to school. And so if they're not going to school, it shouldn't surprise that we're seeing a lot of stagnation in terms of growth and gains that we would expect. I have called up a discussion item on tomorrow's school board agenda, which you all definitely are welcome to come to or just watch it on YouTube. I won't get into the specifics again to be respectful of your time, but I am concerned of continued suspension of students for what are called level 1 violations. So basically we have a policy that says level 1 violations are things that we might tap you on the hand, but we won't send you out of school. So I'm concerned about, if you will, kind of state-sponsored absenteeism by suspending Ty Sergo in the 2nd grade or the 8th grade for doing something that was a level 1 offense that we said is not something that you should be suspended for, but yet still Ty is being suspended. And then we wonder why Ty is not doing so well in math or science or English. You keep suspending him for things that he shouldn't be suspended for. So we're going to have a more robust discussion as a board tomorrow in regard to that. Also, Metal detectors, I know Mayor Preserga, you know that was something that within the first year of me getting on the board, that was something that I was able to kind of maneuver, and we got metal detectors at our high school level, but I was expecting us to have it also at the middle school this year and elementary last year. And on the heels of what happened in Wisconsin yesterday, I think you all know where the direction of my discussion with the board will be tomorrow. But again, we want to make sure that our schools are as safe as they possibly can be so that our children can learn as much as they can possibly learn in the shortest amount of time. So those are three things that I'm concerned about for Boynton and for all of our cities here in Palm Beach County. But overall, I would say that the district is doing well. We were able to regain, whatever word you want to use, our A rating. You should have been down at 3300 Forest Hill. They were dancing through the halls when they realized that the district was back at an A again. And I'm happy for that. But I'm also concerned and most focused on proficiency levels. So I'm less concerned about a school, say Boynton High School, being an A-rated school, as opposed to how many of the children are actually proficient in English, science, and math, because that's what I, as an employer, am most concerned about. I don't really care what your school letter grade is. I want to know if you, Mr. Woodrow, can write a complete sentence, or what are your interpersonal skills and things of that nature. So I would definitely encourage you all as partners. I consider you, Boynton Beach, to be a partner of the district. I do. We don't do this in a vacuum. So we definitely want and need your input and your involvement. But that's something that I'm very much focused on. So again, I'm going to stop now because I know you have more important business, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have today. And if you think of something later, please email me. Let me speak to staff and try to get you an answer back as soon as possible. But thank you again for allowing me to make this very brief presentation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Board Member Mr. Ferguson. So, one of my key takeaways from your presentation is that Boynton's making a comeback in terms of the scores, which is always a good thing to hear.
Yes.
We still have a lot of work to do relative to the average of the district, but at least we're on the upswing. My first question is, what do you think is working well to make that upswing happen, right? So if there was a program or an initiative that we should double down on because it's working and it's serving our kids, what would that be? And my second question, to go back to your topic of I can't pronounce it, I'm sorry.
Absenteeism.
Yes, there we go.
Yes.
Is there anything that's really effective in reducing that?
I'll take the second one first.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm not really sure. I'm not the subject matter expert of that. I know I've listened to Mr. Keith Oswald. He's one of the parties down at Forest Hill who's kind of in charge of kind of overseeing that and trying to limit it. Statutorily, the state is actually implementing laws whereby I think they actually are a tool, if you will, to ensure that kids go to school would be to actually put their parents in jail, which I feel like that's asinine. That makes no sense. And that would be very destabilizing for the child. Putting that way in the back, maybe just kick it out the back of the house. I think the main thing is maybe for us as adults, if we see a child who is not in school during normal school hours, if we feel comfortable, maybe trying to encourage them, hey, how are you? Is everything okay? Hey, what school do you attend? Kind of having that conversation with them, or better yet, if you know their parents, to encourage the parents, because that truly is the person or the persons that can help decrease the amount of absenteeism that we're seeing here in Palm Beach County, and specifically in Boynton. So speaking to the parents, the constituents out here, of the importance of, Johnny or Jane, it's going to be very difficult for them to hit their highest mark if they're not engaged in formal education. And your first question, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, was
What's working to cause
literacy.
the upswing?
Literacy. So when kids are very young, they learn to read, but ultimately after second or third grade, they must be able to read in order to learn. And so I know that all schools are always trying to have additional time with the child if they're in a deficit to get them to a level 3, a level 4, or level 5. When they get to that 4 or 5, that's really where I think they're in a strong position, a position of strength. So they understand what the lesson is as far as math or science or English. So what I have seen in my travels around Boynton and across the district is that we're seeing a greater we're seeing greater gains in terms of reading proficiency. And if you have more proficient readers in school, you'll see them perform better in their particular classes.
What you just said right there just echoes with my experience. I'm a physics teacher, and I have students who, because they struggle with the reading, forget the math and the physics. They can't get there first because of the reading challenges. So I completely see that. Let me turn to my colleagues if they have any questions for Mr. Ferguson or comments. Anything for you?
Thank you for your presentation.
It's good to see you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner,
Oh.
hey,
Thank you very much.
Good to see you, sir.
Commissioner Turkett?
See you, Edwin.
See you in
Always a pleasure
Tallahassee.
having you here, man.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody. See, I'm sure a few of you in Tallahassee next year.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks.
So at this time, we're going to recess for a closed-door attorney-client shade meeting. Thank you so much, everybody, and we will resume in about 45 minutes, you said, Council? Council? About 45
Mayor?
minutes? Half hour? Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We will resume in a few minutes. We are just waiting on one more board member. He'll be here momentarily. All right, good evening. This meeting is called back to order. We have returned from our recess from the attorney-client shade meeting. We're now going to proceed with the rest of the agenda. The next portion of the agenda is agenda approval, additions, deletions, corrections. After our closed-door session, council has recommended an addition to our agenda. Council, I'll turn it to you.
Okay, at this time, we will add 6H, which will be approve a sports provider facility use agreement between City of Boynton Beach and Boynton Beach Little League Incorporated for the use of Little League Park located at 300 West Woolbright Road, and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement in exchange for settlement of case number 2024 CA 00517 in the 15th Judicial Circuit in and for Palm Beach County, Florida. Staff recommends approval of the proposed resolution number R24-329.
All right, thank you. Again, that is 6H. Any objections from my colleague? Let's go around the dais. If you have any other requests, additions, deletions, corrections, let's begin with you, Commissioner Turkin.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I just want to add for future agenda item a discussion about rates for some of our recreational facilities. I've been receiving some phone calls about rate increases for the pickleball courts, and then also I think there was something with the tennis courts back maybe a month or two ago. You know, I understand that, you know, the city, we have to match the economy and inflation with rates, but I think that we need to make exceptions for our senior residents. Many of them are on a fixed income, and a little bit of rates will add up, you know, an increase. And so, you know, it may not seem a lot at that time, but when you're increasing multiple different things, those things add up. So I would like, hopefully, to have support from my colleagues to revisit these rate increases and make sure we can make it, you know, do what we can as far as affordability goes for our seniors. And then the second thing I'd like to add is if we have the ability, I know that the Chapel Hill drainage project is going to include some road paving throughout majority of that neighborhood. I do believe that there's some fingerling roads that do need to be addressed. Not just Chapel Hill, I think this is in Gulfview Harbor. There's a lot of roads that do need to be, you know, funding sources for those roads, whether it's fund balance, transfer in CIP, whatever that may be. You know, these roads, I've been saying this, you know, for a long time, been neglected, and I'd like to see what we can do, what we can now, prior to that stormwater improvement project.
Thank you, Commissioner. So from you, I heard two requests. One is a discussion on facility rates. Let me turn to our colleagues first. Were there any questions on that? Is there a general consensus? Commissioner Cruz? Yes.
Yes, actually, I was going to bring that up as well. I got several emails with regard to the pickleball fees increasing and the tennis court increase in fees as well. I was wondering if it's possible for us to briefly discuss that tonight as we know what the changes are. It could, if we don't have long discussion, it could take like 5-10 minutes, and we could make that change tonight if it's okay with my colleagues.
I think that's even better, Commissioner Cruz.
That has to be on the agenda. I'm sorry, if you're going to make a consensus, are you just going to do a consensus, or
So
are you
the
voting
item
on it?
before us is a discussion on the rates. For that reason, council, I know that that needs to be formalized if there are any changes in the form of a resolution. So I don't think we could take final action this evening. But it could be discussed tonight, and then depending on the discussion, it would have to come back with a formalized resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes,
Okay.
the reason why I think it would be better to discuss that tonight, it's because the rates increase is going to affect January 1st, 2025, and
I
this is
see.
our last commission meeting before then.
I see. For
Thank
that
you so
reason, I also share your sentiment. I will support you in your request for this discussion. We can have it tonight, and then we'll hear the data.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. For the second request from Commissioner Turkin regarding road paving in several parts of the communities that may not have already been included, I believe if staff could put together a presentation on that and have that ready, so this commission can have a discussion, if that is all right with my colleagues. City Manager?
Yeah, I believe what the commissioner was asking is, I guess, for alternative funding means is what you want to bring back as far as like where we can get the funding to do the additional paving. I know Gulfview Harbor, which is in District 1, and you mentioned Chapel Hill, which is in District 3. Would you guys like us to bring back funding for each district as opposed to just two?
So we've done a presentation in the past about the rated roads. You know, I know they're graded between, I think, A through F. Is it F? Okay.
Correct.
And so, you know, what I'd like to look at is we know that these roads need to be paved. And what I don't want to happen is that we wait for this CIP project. You know, this is all over the city, I think, but specifically to Chapel Hill, we don't want to wait for that CIP project to get done with the stormwater. And then those roads that aren't repaved for that project don't get paved. And they're fell behind. So what I'd like is to look at, you know, what we can do to get those roads paved and what are our funding resources.
Yeah, we'll make that part of the discussion. We'll look at the planning and design and the actual location of what roads will be paved based on the utility project that you're referencing in 25, 26. And then we'll bring back some alternative locations. And I'll speak with, I don't think Kevin's here tonight, is he?
No, he's on vacation.
Oh, he is here? Oh, Annalise here, okay. And we'll bring something back.
Well, I'll say this. I think it's important for us to make these kinds of changes during the budget season and plan ahead of time. I'm not opposed to having a discussion on it, but at the same time, I can tell you for my district, we did have about $1 million allocated to pave Gulfview Harbor, and from $1 million, we went down to about $450-something thousand, where there's still all of that money that should have been spent in my district that wasn't spent. And, you know, there are no current plans at this time to make that happen. I think, as you mentioned, it's important that we make sure we take care of all districts, you know, equitably. And yes, absolutely, there are concerns with the underground utility projects. So maybe we could continue to have conversations, maybe individually with staff, so we don't take forever, but also I'm open to having that conversation. But I want to make sure that it's something that's all around the city and not just in two neighborhoods of the city.
Yeah, and that's why I said this is citywide. I don't, you know, specific, so, you know, a lot of times you identify something and then you realize there's a larger problem, you know, with a larger scope. So I think, is that a mouse? So I think, you know, looking at this and then looking at the city as a whole is important. I mean, we know which roads need to be paved.
So
We've been through that.
here's-
We've had that presentation.
Here's my recommendation, City Manager, if you could come back with just a brief update on the road paving projects across the city, and we can use that time to have a discussion of all these items that have been brought up here. What's left, how much money has already been spent, how much more would we need, what are some funding options to fill whatever needs are
And
left.
also the timeframe
And
for any
timeframes. We
utility
can discuss
projects
all
and when
that
we're expecting that to be
during that time.
completed.
Yeah, we'll bring back also the utility projects. I know you got one in District 1, I believe District 3 has one also, which is a fairly large utility project, and we'll bring back the locations, we'll take a look at things.
All right, sounds good. All right, anything else? Moving on to Commissioner Hay, do you have any request?
Yes, I really would like to, along those same lines, to make sure that we don't have a citywide problem, is to have a discussion about our lift stations based on what has recently happened, as we all read in the paper. I think, potentially looking at this thing in 2027 is a long time. So let's look at what we can and cannot do and have that discussion to see where we are.
All right. I see.
Because, the same thing that happened to this one could happen. We need to just take a look at it and see what the years are behind these systems that could be breaking down at any time. And I've passed by that location several times myself, and I concur that it is offensive. So let's just talk about it and take a look at it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hay. I see several head nods earlier when you were speaking, so there is consensus to have that discussion. Okay? Did you want to add anything else? Commissioner Hay, were you finished?
No, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 items to add to today's agenda. Number 1, I'd like to add $500 of community support funds to Pathways to Prosperity, in addition to the $500 that I currently have in the agenda for community support funds. And the second request that I have is I would like to add to the meeting on January 7th, 2025, a moderate comp plan amendment related to rezoning, green space, traffic studies, and underground utility infrastructure as we consider rezoning within our districts. And then we'll be able to look at the maps and really figuring out that every commissioner in every district can really take the lead on what they want to see in their district. But there are things that there might be opportunities for things to happen that might not be feasible in my district. So I just wanted to take that proactive approach to think ahead and to really look at the city as a whole with regard to rezoning and our comp plan. So I'd like to have that discussion on January 7th, 2025.
So your 2 items is to add another $500 to your community support fund request to Pathways to Prosperity, and a discussion on the comp plan, the city's comprehensive plan.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Any objections to those 2 items?
No.
All right, we have a list of items that have been added, and again, today, we're going to have a brief discussion on the rates as we've discussed, but no final decision can be made just yet because of the process, the legal process required. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Move. We have a motion from Commissioner Cruz and a second from Commissioner Turkin. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Let's turn to informational items by members of the City Commission. Commissioner Turkin, did you have any informational items?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a big shout out to our events team, Gabby and everybody, for the drone show and the holiday tree lighting. That was amazing. I know the community loved it, and it really stuck out. Beautiful, beautiful thing. And I want to thank the police department as well as our Marine unit for keeping everyone safe during the holiday boat parade. And then the other thing I'd like to discuss or maybe bring to staff's attention, I believe you guys are already aware of the situation on South Road. It seems like there's a vessel in a residential slip that seems to be dumping wastewater into the canal. So I'm not sure where we're at with that. I know from what I've read in our codes that I believe that particular vessel has violated some of our codes, and I know is causing some distress to the neighbors. And so, I know this is beyond, not just within the city scope, but beyond the city into the EPA, FWC, Coast Guard, everything like that. So I just want to make sure that there's a communication line between the residents on South Road and the city to get updates on where they're at with this, because from my understanding, this has been going on since the summer, and, for me, I'm just now hearing about this, and, hopefully we can get this matter resolved.
Thank you, Commissioner. Council, it looked like you had your hand up earlier. Nope. All right, thank you. We're going to move on to Commissioner Hay. Any informational items?
No, just echoing what previous commission was saying about the drone show and tree lighting parade. And also, had a great time at, I think they call it Kabuki, that restaurant. That was impressive. And we'll be going back. Probably won't be eating everything on the agenda, on the menu, but I'm glad to see someone in that spot. It's been a long time being vacant, and now I think this particular business is going to be successful. So just wanted to, all of us were there, just about. Yeah, we were all there. And the guys playing the band, it was just a great experience. But that drone show was just off the chain. I would love to find out how they do that. But just keep up the good work. We're doing a great job. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to disclosures, I do have a disclosure. For item 10A, I did speak to the applicant's legal counsel. And then for the walked-in item on the agenda for Little League, I had a conversation with Little League. I can't recall exactly the date, but it was maybe a while ago, maybe a month or more, where I did have a conversation with regard to the agreement. So just wanted to put those disclosures out there. And then I did want to give a moment to thank staff for all the work that they did during all of the holiday events. Every single one of them was extremely amazing, and I think that the holiday tree lighting is the best that we've ever had. So thank you all, and thank you to our first responders as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. City Manager?
I just wanted to take a moment. One of Boynton Beach's residents, Travis Hunter, won the Heisman Trophy over the last week from District 2. Boynton Beach Bulldog Wildcat. So I just wanted to give public acknowledgement of that. I know he may be hosting his draft party in the city, so which would be pretty exciting news. So, and I believe Assistant Manager Temple has.
Yes, thank you, sir. Just to follow up on what Commissioner Turkin brought up with the vessel, this was recently brought to our attention. I think I found out about it last week. We are in receipt of a petition from somewhere around 50 residents, and there's a lot of allegations taking place. And our police department, community standards departments are collaboratively working along with our attorney's office to address some of these concerns. So we'll make sure that we follow up with those on the petition.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to continue on with the agenda. We have two announcements here. The first one is for Boynton Beach's Dog Potty on the beach. It is hosted by the Recreation Parks Department on Saturday, December 21st from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Oceanfront Park located at 6415 North Ocean Avenue. This is the second of 4 scheduled events being held on the third Saturday of each month through February. This month's theme is Happy Holidays. Dogs and their owners are encouraged to dress up in their holiday to enjoy giveaways, a photo contest sponsored by Raising Cane's, and more. This event is free for all well-behaved licensed dogs and their owners. Dogs will be allowed off-leash in a designated fenced area. Parking at the Oceanfront Park is free for the duration of the event for all beach patrons. For more information, visit the city's website, boynton-beach.org. The next announcement, the City of Boynton Beach Utilities Department will be performing a system-wide free chlorination flush for routine maintenance of the water distribution system from January 2nd, 2025 to January 23rd, 2025. Customers particularly sensitive to the taste and odor of chlorine may place an open container of drinking water in their refrigerators for a few hours to allow the chlorine to dissipate. Because of this change, users of home dialysis machines, owners of tropical fish aquariums, and managers of stores and restaurants with holding tanks for fish and shellfish are advised to seek professional guidance on how to operate their equipment during this period. Thank you. That concludes the announcements. The next portion of the agenda is public audience. As always, it is 3 minutes per person. After we concluded with those in the chambers, we'll go to those online. and the same rules of civility and decorum apply. Personal attacks, insults are obviously strictly prohibited. All right, we do have two podiums. Excuse me. State your name for the record, and begin whenever you're ready.
Tom Warnke. First, I want to thank your work as commissioners. A few of the things I have to say tonight are feel-good items. One of them is the Andrews House. But when my dad was commissioner here, the police would deliver his backup packet for the agenda to the house. I'm sure they don't do that now. It's online. But it was 200 pages. I noticed today your backup is 1,800 pages. So thank you for your hard work. Two other things not related to the Andrews House. 3 years ago, city staff were tasked with fencing Eco Park to keep the dirt bikes out of there, to help preserve that natural area. And that never happened. There are big gaps in the fence, and they're still going in and out. So I would think it would be appropriate for the commission to direct the city manager's office to complete that task. The repair of Oceanfront Park sewage treatment is on the agenda, almost $1 million. But I just wanted to make sure you all were aware that after people flush and it goes through the partial treatment, it gets dumped under the parking lot. The drain field is right under the parking lot. That goes into the superficial aquifer and under the dune into the ocean. So at some point in the future, either waterless toilets or some other alternative would need to be another upgrade. The Andrews House is on your January 7th agenda. And if you have not seen the current interior photos, I'm going to be resending them to you in the next couple of days. It's in excellent condition. When it was renovated 20 years ago by Bob Katz, directing my father as the chief manager there, the Dade County pine was stripped bare inside and outside. The outside was then painted. The inside is still bare Dade County pine. It's just beautiful natural wood. It also got all new plumbing and electric, and it's 3 feet off the ground, so the steel beams can go right in under. There's even open slots there for those beams. So it's not going to be hard to move it over to Ocean Avenue. Our committee is very well represented in the Historical Society. I'm on the committee. Mike Fitzpatrick is on the committee. We've got a website. We've got a donor button. It's going to go live in a few days here. In the media, since Thanksgiving, there's been 7 media articles. Saturday was front page Palm Beach Post. So if you didn't see the Palm Beach Post this Saturday, it was front page. I have 7 seconds left, I think. It'll help revitalize downtown. So let's do it here like we did in Del Rey.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mike Fitzpatrick, 175 Southwest 2nd Street. This might be a little repetitive there. Thank you for including discussion of the Andrews House for the January 7th meeting. We have had 2 meetings and formed a group called Move Historic Andrews House. I am the chair. Tom Warnke is the vice chair. Steve Anton has set up the webpage. Ann Rimler and Bob Taylor are officers of the Boynton Beach Historical Society. They are working to set up a checking account under the BBHS so we can offer tax-deductible status for collecting some funds to help with the move. I have had one 19-minute conversation with Mr. Matto. It was a pleasant conversation where he expressed support for the move if done in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. State your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Charles Hunt, military retiree. I live in Rolling Green, 1330 Northwest First Court. With all due respect, I would like to speak for the rest of my colleagues in Rolling Green. We are asking you for nothing but to do what's right. Just as God said in Luke 6:31, as you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. I don't know if any of you all have ever been accused of something that is not true. But I would like to let you know that it's a bad feeling. I've been through the military many years, and I never felt this way. I am here to just let you know that all of Rolling Green feel like we're being looked upon as different. We are asking you to undo those liens in the last 2 years, those ridiculous, unfair liens in the last 2 years against our homes. Boynton don't need our homes, and we feel strongly that you're trying to take them through scam. For example, I am still being charged $75 a day for having something on my carport other than a car. They sent the guy back through my home, my yard, and he taking pictures again. But please, do an investigation and undo these liens on our homes, we pray.
Thank you. Next speaker. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Hi, good evening all. Jessica Ferguson here with the East Boynton Beach Little League. I appreciate you guys taking the time to meet and have the meeting in regards to our agreement. I'm hoping that, you know, good vibes came out of that meeting, and we'll be getting some good feedback in regard to, or some good news that I would be able to then turn around and share in our board meeting on Thursday. I know it's been quite a roller coaster ride, but I think that where we are here tonight, I'm just truly, truly, truly happy and grateful that we're right there. We're right at the finish line. I can see it, I can feel it, and I am just super grateful for all of you. I hope you guys, agree and sign the agreement, and we can start fresh, and we look forward to a prosperous, relationship with the city. So thank you, we appreciate you, and go East.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Flo Rossoff, and amongst other things, I'm a pickleball player, and I feel like speaking to you is like speaking to a choir. I really feel your support of the senior community. Pickleball is not just about a game. It's about a community feeling. All the people that are here today, I just would like to read this officially. So we taxpayers, some of us registered voters and seasonal visitors who play pickleball in Boynton Beach are urgently appealing to the heart of the Boynton Beach policymakers to keep last year's pickleball rates the same. We judge a government by how they treat their children and their elderly and those in need. If the rates are increased, senior citizens that are retired, living on fixed income, and dealing with skyrocketing expenses for dwelling, insurance, and food will be forced to refrain from playing pickleball at the Hester Community Center and the other pickleball facilities. Presently, we are paying $50 for 24 sessions, which for regular players is $50 a month or $420 a year, counting the centers closing. For residents, $60 for 15 sessions will double the price to $820. The cost is greater than a yearly seven-day membership at the YMCA or other private facilities. If you increase the cost, it'll be prohibitive for many of the present players, and also you will lose players with discretionary income who will go to more modern facilities to play pickleball that are available now. We are all aware of the health and the community benefits of having this resource available to us and to all seniors, and we don't want to limit it by making pickleball a game for only the wealthy. We are soliciting your support and understanding and ask you to keep the rates of $50 for 24 games, would not require people on fixed incomes to opt out, and primarily it allows pickleball to remain an egalitarian game for all Boynton Beach residents. Appreciate you taking this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Cindy Falco DiCorrado. I'm here tonight in regards to documents that I sent to the city clerk yesterday in regards to fluoride in our water. I have documentations with backings of evidences to prove what I'm about to share with you. So I'm going to ask the Boynton Beach City Commissioners, City Manager, to really take this to heart. Okay? So the fluoride that they're trying to put into our community, our drinking water specifically, there are 16 references in which I did share, and it is on the record, so you can take a look at that, through the State Surgeon General Joseph Labapole, to discontinue fluoridization of community water, describing the adverse effects and the neurological toxicity. Some of these words are a little bit difficult for me, my tongue, of fluoride. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has announced that he will be taking similar actions at the national level when confirmed as our Health and Human Services Secretary. We have been exposed to hazards daily in food, soil, water, air, and our electromagnetic atmosphere, even when we choose not to be exposed, causing sickness, impairments, rashes on children, injuries, and early deaths. Adding fluoridation to our water lowers IQ in children, setting them up for a lifetime of health and other problems, weakens bones for the elderly. It is a known neurotoxin which adversely affects brain and health. Fluoride safely data sheets revealed it is to be harmful in many ways. City workers should not be exposed to this hazard, and our drinking water should no longer be used as involuntarily mouthwash. The City of Naples has recently changed their ordinances to end the fluoridization, which the City of Boynton Beach should adopt as well. Requiring fluoridization at our water treatment plants must cease immediately and permanently, which may be done simply with the Health Department's approval. Florida Statute 381.026, the Florida Patent Bill of Rights, and 859.01, poisoning of food and water, render legal liability to officers, fluoridating the water. So this is going to come with a price to pay for those who do this, because it is a crime. It's malpractice. As per Joseph Ladpole, and adding industrial waste neurotoxins, that is AKA rat poisoning, to our drinking water is criminal. Fluoride combined over time with arsenic-lead pesticides, microwave radiation, other hazards, injures all people. Thus, we demand that this not be put in our waters in January. Also, I wanted to bring up what happened at 500 Oceans today. I heard there was a shooting, cops in full force. What's going on in Boynton Beach?
Thank you.
There's gunshots every day.
Thank you so much.
Please check into that. Thank you.
Next speaker. State your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Hello, Court McQuire, 506 Whispering Pines. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Managers. I just came here to say thank you. The events have been spectacular over the last few weeks, and more to come. I think that our events are better than our neighbors, so great job there. The tree lighting, I went with my wife and 3 girls. There was Mickey Mouse, there was ice skating. I've never seen that. Really just spectacular. The vendors were great. The show was great. The drone show, as you mentioned, I've never seen anything like that. The candlelight vigil I also attended. That was those that are affected by DUIs. That was very touching and moving. Beautiful event. There was dance. There was a choir. It was very calm, very peaceful, cool night. The boat parade, amazing. We also went to the toy giveaway. That was on Woolbright across from McDonald's. What a great turnout. Lots of excitement, lots of children. Wonderful. The parade, smash hit. I think it's the 51st. So great job on that. And I also attended the Kabuki grand opening as a member of the CRA Advisory Board. What a wonderful new addition. So thank you, staff, and thank you, members of the commission, and for all that you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Karen, and I live in the
Oh, could you come closer to the mic, please? Either one's fine.
Okay, my name is Karen, and I live in the city of Boynton. I'm also here to talk about the fluoridation in the water. I think it's about time that you guys stop this nonsense trying to poison us with our food, our, water and everything else. And there's also another legislation that's coming up in Florida, and it's regarding putting these things in public places with the rainbow on our sidewalk. Once it goes through, I hope you guys pay to get that off of our street in the city. It doesn't belong here. It never did. So please, once the legislation goes through, get that stuff out of our city. We don't need it here. Thank you. Same with the fluoride. We don't need it.
All right, I see no one else approaching the podium. Let me check online. And I see one person online. IT, can you confirm? Thumbs up. All right, Ms. Moore, go ahead. I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining on the clock. You may begin whenever you're ready and state your name for the record.
Okay, good evening. I'm Luann Moore. I sent in a public comment letter for the meeting of November 19th that I would like to raise tonight. In light of the remanded legal status of the Federal Communications Human Exposure Guidelines for microwave radiation and the decision of the federal agencies to cease any further studies, I am again requesting review and update of the city's 2018 telecommunication ordinances and halts to residential and school deployments. The Federal Communications Commission has been unable to assure their approvals for wireless telecommunications safety since August 2021, when their guidelines were remanded by the court as inadequate based on a preponderance of evidence of harm. As of January of this year, the Food and Drug Administration has ended the studies they commissioned from the National Toxicology Program that have shown more evidence of harm. And it has been announced these agencies will do no more studies, and the FCC has no time limit to answer the court's remand to provide adequate human exposure guidelines. With these developments, many have been waiting for the rollback of 5G, while industry went on with 6G as wireless body area networks and 7G with optical networks and satellites, without any kind of national, state, or local response for the protection of life and property. No rollback, no FCC response to the court's remand. It has become all too apparent that the FCC will not timely answer the court's remand where they have no time limit, thus pulling the rug out from under local authorities for assuring the safety of wireless telecommunications and facilities. Over the last 5 years, I have experienced numerous problems with the city management on matters of improper permitting, improper responses to records requests, and failure to keep current ordinances enforce them to fulfill fiduciary responsibilities for the health and safety of the public. I've been making records requests for wireless
seconds.
telecommunications facilities permitted in the city of Boynton Beach since 2020, and filing complaints with the Federal Communications Committee and local authorities for that long. I repeatedly requested the city's 2018 ordinance be revised to stay up to date in compliance with technological, health, safety, and environmental and legal developments. Yet these outdated ordinances remain in place, allowing residents to abuses of a wireless
All right, thank you so much.
telecommunications at the
Our time
Wild
is up.
West.
Thank you for your comments. With that being the last person, public audience is now closed. We're going to go on to administrative. There's two quick items under administrative. The first one is a request from Commissioner Cruz to allocate, currently in the agenda, there's $500, but earlier today, the request that was approved was to increase another $500. Is that correct, Commissioner? So that's $1,000 to be appropriated to to P2P, Pathways to Prosperity.
So it's going to be 500 to the Heart of Boynton and 500 to Pathways to Prosperity.
Thank you for that correction. So it's 500 and 500
Correct.
for the two organizations. All right, may I have a motion to approve said request?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
All those in favor of approving her request, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. The next request here is from Commissioner Turkin, yes, for $1,150 to the Boynton Women's Club. May I have a motion to approve that request?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second from Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. With that, 5A is completed. The next item is 5B. This is the 2025 City Commission calendar of meetings. City Manager, do you want to introduce this item?
Yes, Mayor. What we're doing is over the next year or so of commission meetings, you guys typically are scheduled to take 4 city trips and 2 CRA sponsored trips. The Clerk of Courts, Maylee Diazuz, is here. She's going to actually speak as far as the scheduling of those. We had a brief conversation on Wednesday and on the agenda review where we got through a lot of the scheduling aspects, and I believe what the consensus was during that review is we're going to go all the way up to the summer months around June, and then we're going to revisit scheduling some of those. Maylee, do you have the what we discussed as far as the rescheduling of some of those so we can briefly mention them?
There is on March 4th, that meeting was canceled because of Palm Beach County days. So the agenda review for the February 27th was canceled as well because of that. During the March 13 meeting, that is, you guys will be traveling for another conference. I do not have the list for the conferences, but that was canceled. And you guys will do one-on-one meetings for the agenda review. And
You said March 18th, is that right?
the March 13 meeting, that's when you guys will be.
Oh, so the agenda review is canceled, but the actual meeting is
The
still
actual
here.
meeting is going to continue,
Okay.
the agenda review will be one-on-ones for
Okay.
that.
All right.
And then I believe there's one more if we scroll a little bit down. IT, can you scroll a little bit down? Yeah, August 14, that's the same, there's I believe that's the Florida League of Cities Conference, and there's a conflict with the August 14 meeting, and so you guys will be doing one-on-ones for that meeting. And then after that, there are a couple more conflicts, but we will revisit that during the summertime.
So, Mayor, with that being said, we had consensus to cancel one meeting, which is the Palm Beach County days, and that's when we go up to Tallahassee. And then to do one-on-ones for the other 2 agenda review meetings. So there was only essentially one meeting that we're requesting being canceled.
Okay, sounds good. I have no major objections. My only area of concern, but if my colleagues have no issue with it, then I don't either. The January 7th meeting, typically, early January is still within the holiday period where families are traveling. But if you guys will be here, then I'll be here as well. I just wanted to make sure all of you were okay with that, including staff. Will you be here? Because the agenda review is on the 2nd of January, right? So
Correct. I'm going to be here. I'm not going to, I don't know, Andrew, do you have any vacation schedule? We'll both be here.
Okay. Council, you're okay with that as well? Okay.
Fine.
All right. Sounds good. With that, may I have a formal motion to approve these calendar of meeting
So
dates
moved.
for 2025? We have a motion. We have a second. Yes, Council?
Maybe Commissioner Turkin stepped away for a minute.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the 2025 City Commission calendar of meeting dates. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Moving on to consent agenda, are there any items under consent that my colleagues would like to pull? Please remember that we added item 6H from our discussion earlier on. Any requests? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the entirety of consent agenda?
So move.
We have a motion from
Second.
Commissioner Hay and a second from Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor of approving the entirety of consent agenda, say aye.
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 All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the next portion, consent bids and purchases over $100,000. Anything my colleagues would like to pull under this section? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Cruz, second from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of approving the entirety of Section 7 consent bids and purchases over $100,000, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to public hearing. So let's begin now to public hearing. I know council just stepped out. Mei Lee, let me turn to you to read the ordinance title. And there are 3 related items here under public hearing.
Yeah, go ahead and read the ordinances. The first one's going to be proposed ordinance number 24-024, first reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending ordinance number 89-38 by amending the future land use map of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, for an approximately 2.97 acre parcel of real property generally located north of the C. Stanley Weaver Canal on the west side of North Seacrest Boulevard, Boynton Beach, Florida, by changing the land use classification from low-density residential and recreational to local retail commercial, declaring the proposed amendment to the future land use map to be consistent with all other elements of the comprehensive plan of the city, providing for severability, conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you for reading that into the record, and then we'll proceed with the swearing in and the remainder of the process.
Okay. Proposed ordinance, and there's also a second one, proposed ordinance number 24-025, first reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending ordinance number 02-013 to rezone an approximately 2.97 acre parcel of real property generally located north of the C. Stanley Weaver Canal on the west side of North Seacrest Boulevard, Boynton Beach, Florida, from single-family residential to planned commercial development, declaring the proposed amendment to be consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, providing for severability, conflicts, and providing for an effective date. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do the swearing in. You wanna speak?
We can do that now, or we can do our disclosures first, whichever the commission prefers.
They're already standing, just go ahead. One way or another, it's getting done.
Anybody here to speak in regards to any items for public hearing, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to any disclosures now. My colleagues have on their table in front of them the format of the disclosures. Let's begin on my right, Commissioner Cruz.
As to this matter, I have had ex parte communications with the applicant's legal counsel. I'm not sure, I don't think I've received any written communications with regard to this, but I would let the, any emails that I've received be reflected on the record. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, although I plan to, and I have received expert opinions only from our city staff. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. As for myself, as to this matter, I have had ex parte communications with their legal representative, Bonnie Miskell. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received any outside expert opinions outside of our city staff. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record. Commissioner Hay.
I have had communication with Bonnie Misker and Jonathan. I have not received written communication. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made I have made a site visit, and I have received expert opinion from staff. I request that these disclosures and all written communication be part of the record.
Thank you. Commissioner Turkin.
As to this matter, I have had ex parte communications with Bonnie Miskell. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received an expert opinion. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Thank you. We have concluded with all of the official steps. Now we will turn to the applicant to present their item. I just want to make sure it's clear for the record. There are technically four related items here. We will hear the presentation for all four of them together. However, we will vote on it separately. Thank you, Ms. Miskell. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Members of the commission, good evening. It's nice to see you. Happy holidays. I'm very excited to present this project to you today. It really has been a true collaboration between your staff, who's done an amazing job and have been very creative here as well as our designers. So we'll start with that. And do I need to control the, should I? Would that be easier for you? Okay, I did it right, great. This property is located at 1390 North Seacrest Boulevard. It's north of the Boynton Canal on the west side of Seacrest. This property was it's 2.97 acres. It was originally owned by the Bible Church of God across the street. The pastor is here this evening and happy to answer any questions that you may have for a very long time. And, you know, I'm going to look at this because I can't see that far. But the upper left-hand corner is a view from the northwest looking south. As you can see, it's vacant on the west side, and it's across the canal from the Carol Sims Park as well as some other buildings. Upper right-hand corner, it's a view from the northeast looking west. Lower left-hand corner of the page, a view from the southwest, and then on the right side, a view from the southeast. Okay. So we have four applications today, as you are well aware. The first one being a future land use map amendment from LDR low density, 7.5 dwelling units per acre to local retail commercial LRC. Second application and a corresponding application is a rezoning from R1A, single-family residential, to PCD, planned commercial development. A third application is the master plan requirement associated with a PCD, master plan approval for an 89 dwelling unit multifamily residential development with 100% of the housing being workforce housing in accordance with the Live Local Act. The zoning that this is being analyzed against is the MU2 zoning district, or the application is being reviewed against the MU2. And then lastly, a variance to allow a minimum lot area of 2.97 acres in lieu of the 3-acre minimum lot area required for a PCD master plan zoning district. By the way, that means we're asking for a very, very, very minor request, a 0.03 difference. And the pictures on the right-hand side show you the upper picture is the LRC land use designation, and the lower is the PCD zoning, and that would be what is proposed this evening. So this, by the way, I know there is, I know you've observed a sense that this is not the typical applications that you might see, given that we are applying here the Live Local Act ultimately. However, and when I spoke before about a creative approach, again, it is 100% workforce housing. Workforce housing is something that you just don't see enough of in South Florida with the real estate costs. But this was the way to do it, applying the live local, yet coming to you with a commercial underlying land use and zoning request. And as you are also aware, with a live local, you must have either a commercial or an industrial land use. So it is a bit different. It's a creative way of doing it, but the end result provides an extreme and very positive public benefit. So looking at the screen, you'll see a two-building, 89-unit, three-story multifamily building proposed. We have almost half of this site as green space, as open space, which is significant, and the minimum parking and the parking provided meet the requirements. It is, again, with one driveway access off of North Seacrest Boulevard, which you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. Also shown on the lower portion on the south side of the overall project is proposed a shared use path for the entire length of the project and the property. And we'll show you some renderings as to what that's proposed to look like. Okay. Did I just do that wrong? Yes, I did. Okay, here we go with some of the renderings. This is a conceptual rendering. It's a view from the northeast. This is the entranceway into the overall project. As you can see, it is a three-story attractive building. And the parking, it flanks on the north and south side of the driveway, all of the parking requirement. Here are some additional renderings. What you're looking at on the left side of the screen is the shared use path that is proposed. It's a meandering path, very much like a linear park scenario. It will be improved with a hard surface. There will be extensive landscaping and use for the community. And it does connect all the way from the west side of the site to Seacrest. There's some additional renderings. This is looking south at the buildings. Again, the parking is entirely on the north side, and there is extensive setback between the buildings and the single family, which is on the north side of the parking area. Some additional renderings. This is a perspective of that shared use park-like area on the south side of the building running along the canal on this property. It is not outside the property, it is on this property. Some additional renderings. And this is the common patio area between the two buildings. So when you, and I will have to get this in front of me, but when you respond to the criteria for what we're asking for, the questions that are on the screen must be responded to and must be demonstrated that we are compliant. First one, demonstration of need. I don't think there's anyone in the room that questions the shortage of housing inventory in South Florida, and in particular, workforce housing inventory. Every city is struggling with trying to provide adequate housing and a variety of housing for not just their residents, but for their employees and for the children that are leaving home to go to college and coming back to look for somewhere to live. So clearly there's a demonstration of need for what we're proposing to do. We also have to demonstrate that this application is consistent with the comprehensive plan policies. We have a very extensive response to that in the backup, so I won't go into the details, but one of the greatest policies, goals, and objectives that I believe this is applicable to is, again, a variety of housing for all ages, but also for all income levels, and that's something that we are doing here. So that is clearly met by this application. We also look at compatibility, and I understand that you have an application that also speaks to a commercial land use and a commercial zoning designation. So why am I talking about residential? Well, I'm talking about residential because we intend to apply the live local. But how do you know that? You may question whether if I leave this evening and my client gets approved, what guarantees that you're going to get the public benefit that I'm talking about, that workforce housing. And so what we intend to do, and will provide the city prior to second reading, is a deed restriction that will do a few things. It will proffer a guarantee that this project will be 100% workforce, number one. Number two, that it will be 89 units and no more. Whether we could fit more or not, it will be a maximum of 89 units, and it will be no more than 3 stories tall. We do that for a few reasons. One, to assure you that we're going to deliver what we promise, most importantly. But secondly, this acquisition was part of the church across the street. And the church across the street has parishioners that live all around this property. And so it was just as important for my client to satisfy them as it is to satisfy you, because we wanted not just to be consistent and compatible with the area, but to be a good neighbor with the group who happened to have been our seller. So that's something that will be completed, it will be recorded, and it will require that no changes can be made without the consent of the city, so that you have a guarantee that in the future that's what it will remain. So continuing on, we had to address orderly growth, which we think we are addressing. Location efficiency, we have located the buildings further south from the single family to create an adequate buffer between the multifamily use and the single family uses to the north of that. Availability of public services and infrastructure, your staff has analyzed that in great detail, and we are fully compliant. Economic development impact, this site has been vacant for a very, very long time. It is a long, narrow site. It makes it very difficult for any other development that isn't somewhat organized in the way that a multifamily building would be. It's an appropriate use given that site. And then we're not affecting any heavy commercial or industrial land supply, because right now it isn't designated that, so we are not depleting your supply. And then lastly, the master plan and the site plan compliance with your LDRs, which your staff has evaluated, and we are compliant with those as well. The only thing that we are not completely compliant with is the 3-acre minimum for a master plan. We are 2.97.03 off. So otherwise, this meet or exceeds your code. As I mentioned, we have an extensive amount of open space here that is well beyond not just expectations, but any code requirements. And I think I won't go into detail over the variance criteria, but it is a unique and peculiar parcel, and that's why anyone that would try to develop this site would be challenged by one code section or another, because of the length of the parcel and its depth, and that you would be required to serve the entire length with adequate streets, sidewalks, green space, and setbacks. So it is a very challenged piece of property, and we've managed to make a very efficient use of it. Your staff recommendation is approval. I would like to commend your staff. I've had the privilege of working with this group for many, many years, and they are perhaps one of the most creative groups of planners I've ever worked with. And I'm very proud to present this project. We've worked very hard to give your staff something to work with, and their creativity has been greatly appreciated, so thank you very much. I'm joined by my client. We have our traffic engineer here. We're happy to answer any of your questions, or we can wait until after the public portion, and we'll stick around and be ready to respond. Thank you very much for allowing us to present this evening.
Thank you, Bonnie. We appreciate your presentation. Don't go anywhere just yet. Amanda and staff, did you have anything to add or present to that? I just want to make sure I give you the opportunity.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Commission. Elizabeth Cosme, Principal Planner. It is a pleasure to be here. Just like Bonnie Misco mentioned, we did work closely with the applicants to arrive at the project that is being presented to you, that would hopefully, provide the most needed affordable housing. We don't have much to add, but we're here to answer any questions you may have or concerns.
Great. All right. Thank you. It is first reading, if I'm not mistaken. It is first reading, and so there's no public comments. Or in this case, would there be public comments?
Yes,
given the
public comment,
nature?
because you're acting as the planning board as well.
Okay, we'll do that. So let's turn to public comment, and then after public comment, we'll have both of you back up, and then we'll have questions from the board.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. If you would like to speak specifically on this item, now is the time to approach the podium. As always, 3 minutes per person, and go ahead.
Pastor Banks, Bible Church of God. We are concur with the company to develop the property. When we first purchased the property some 35 years ago, we had envisioned something like that. But our main business is church business, so we developed the east side with the intention to develop the west side. And we have various groups over the years that come and try to purchase the property, but we want to know what was the agenda, how it's going to enhance the community. If it didn't enhance the community, we weren't interested in dealing with them. And this Global came up and gave us a great presentation. We had a community meeting at our church and invite for comments any neighbors that had any questions regarding what we're going to do and how we're going to operate. And so we want to be positive in the community. We've been in this community, my family has been in this community over 100 years, and the church has been there for over 60-something years here. And we thought it would be great to have some affordable housing, also something that looked fairly nice, and also in a developed neighborhood area currently in. We noticed on the south end of town, there's a lot of building going on, but nothing across the bridge. So this would be one of the first newer projects built on that side in quite some time. And like our force stated, we got members throughout the community been here a long time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, my great grandmother and grandfather were here before one was formally organized. So we've been in the community for a while. And as a member of the community, and as a church in this community, we always want to do what's best for the people in the community. We make sure that the people that present these programs to us, what are you going to do? What type of house are you going to put there? Because we don't want no junk. We don't want them to be a ghetto in 2 years. They assured us that they're going to prevent quality housing and viable housing that people can afford what we need. And so the church bought in on it, and as spoken for the church, we wholeheartedly agree with the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Banks. Anyone else would like to speak specifically on this item? Going once? All right, going twice. All right, we got one additional speaker, and let me check online. I see no one online, so it's just you. All right, begin when you're ready.
Court McGuire, 506 Whispering Pines. I came here to sort of listen to this presentation, and I think initially I was thinking single family going to or higher density, but I mean, after I saw the presentation and what was offered, I think as a member of the community, former member of Planning and Development and on the CRA Advisory Board, I think it'd be a nice addition to the community. Affordable housing is needed, and the project looks nice, so I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else, public comment on this item is now closed. At this time, I'd like to call up the applicant as well as staff for any questions that my colleagues may have. And before you begin, Commissioner Cruz, let me just say, because Pastor Banks just spoke, Pastor Banks, let me say this. I think workforce and affordable housing is truly a commendable use of church property. And I'm not sure if you realize, but you are taking a leadership role here, because throughout the county, in our great search for properties to build workforce and affordable housing, churches across the county are key to that. So thank you for stepping up, because this is going to be the example that everyone else is watching. So thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you for your presentation. I've had multiple conversations and questions with staff as well as the applicant. And I think some of those questions have been already answered by you, but I just wanted to, I have a list, so I'm just gonna go through it real quick. Thank you for providing that restrictive covenant. I wanted to ask for a deed restriction to limit the number of units and the height, to make sure that it never goes above 3 stories and it never is built above the 89 units that you're predetermined to build. I had a couple of thoughts and questions as we're talking about rezoning. And one of those questions is, would this rezoning conflict with adjacent properties or existing neighborhood characteristics?
Sorry. We don't believe so, particularly by design, it does not. But typically, multifamily is a good transition between single family and other uses, whether they're institutional or beyond that, commercial. So we think it is appropriate, and we designed it, and your staff really pushed us to make sure we designed it in a way that created significant space between the multifamily use and the single-family use. And one other thing that I'd like to add, and Pastor Banks referenced it at one point, we went to a community meeting at their request, really, very early on in the process. And we had the privilege, I wasn't at the meeting, but from what I've been told, we had the privilege of meeting a number of the neighbors. And we feel that our design did address their interests and their concern, hence why we're so proud of it. It really was a collaboration. So I think by doing what we did through design and through a low multifamily project, that is in fact stereotypically a compatible transition.
Thank you. And then the next
Commissioner Cruz, it looked like Amanda was about to jump in as well.
you have more? Okay.
I can also just add that from a regulatory standpoint, one of the things we do when we're reviewing live local projects is we review them against the regulations of the intensity of the project. So this was reviewed against mixed use 2, which is what we do within the heart of Boynton for some of the affordable housing that has been built there recently. And that is, it's been precedented in that group, that we do have single family against the zoning regulations that this project has been reviewed against.
Thank you for that, Amanda. And then this was probably my biggest concern as I talked to staff, and it was, can our existing infrastructure, roads, water, sewage, utilities support the proposed zoning change?
All of those have been, again, Bonnie Miskell here on behalf of the applicant, all of those have been evaluated. But through our expert testimony and reports to your staff, and they have looked at them. I do have, everyone talks about traffic because it's the one that we notice most.
Oh, I'll get there. We'll get
Okay.
there.
We're ready.
Thank you. Okay. Perfect. So we have the deed restriction. How many 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms?
Okay, let me pull up my list. We have 34 one-bedrooms, which really are comprised of some one-bedroom and some one-bedroom and a den, but total 34. 37 two-bedrooms and 18 three-bedrooms. So we have a good mix of 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Okay, thank you. And then the next question I had was, you said a percentage of green space, and that was one of the concerns I asked staff during my agenda review, but you did answer it was about a 40.
Yeah, our open space is shown, I think that's either 40, is that 46.5? It's 46.5, I stand corrected. I read that as 48.5. 46.5 open space.
Thank you, that's pretty significant, okay. One thing that we talked about was the linear walkway, which it looks really nice. I think it's something where people can actually use their bikes or jog and get to exercise. Could you consider making that public so that all the residents that are on the west side can, kind of walk over and access Sarah Sims?
Yeah, I believe that's.
Give your name.
Hi, Jonathan Karlick, the applicant. Thank you all for seeing me tonight and taking a look at this project. We would absolutely consider that.
What we'll do prior to second reading then is we'll provide staff, your city attorney, with a public access easement across that. We have not done a legal description, so we can't go so far as record it. We'll have to prepare a legal for that area, but we'll get all that done, and it can be a condition prior to building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Once this goes through formal site plan approval, it will be a condition of your permit.
Fine, that's
Thank you.
fine.
Wonderful, all right. You guys work very well together. I could tell. All right.
It's been a
next-
long time.
Yes. So one thing that we spoke about very aggressively was the traffic study. I always have concerns as we have new development of what it's going to do to our roads, how many more people are going to be, driving out in the morning, driving in the evening, and affecting the current neighborhood that we have. So do we have a current traffic study for this site?
We do, and we have Adam Kerr here to explain it since that's his job.
Good evening, Adam Kerr with Kimley Horn and Associates. Yes, we did 3 separate traffic studies, one to support the land use study, one the rezoning, as well as the site plan. And those traffic studies have been reviewed by staff as well as by Palm Beach County, who has issued their approval letter of those traffic studies.
So Palm Beach County approved the traffic study that you submitted?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I would personally, just because I'm on the TPA, I'm interested in that stuff, I would like to delve into that with Amanda if I can. So if you guys can share a copy of the traffic study for me to discuss with our staff.
And by the way, if it's helpful at all, Mr. Kerr can be available for that meeting if you two wish for him to attend.
Thank you. All right, I was going to ask you to have a community input meeting, but you already had one, so you've checked that box. Do we have planned electric vehicle charging stations for this?
So they were not planned, but, Jonathan and I have talked about that, and I think you're committing to,
10 EV-ready spaces, and typically, we'll sign a deal with the company that will install them and track them, and if they get to above 90% usage, they'll start to install more. So
Wonderful.
So we'll start with at least 1 or 2 EV stations, but there will be space for 10.
Wait, so you'll start with 1 or 2, or you're going to
Well,
put 10?
well, so they're
gonna-
different.
Yeah, so they're
So-
gonna, the infrastructure is gonna be there for 10.
Okay.
Okay, so they install 1 or 2 at first, when the building opens, and then they monitor it to see if there's no usage, which it's possible, they don't install anymore. But if there's high usage, they start to install more and more until they feel comfortable.
Can you commit to putting at least 2? Because the way I've seen it, it's like each electric vehicle station has 2 vehicles that can be charged at a time. So we put a minimum of 2, it would be 4 vehicles. That would be, I mean, we do have 98 units in the
I can commit to
development.
that.
Commissioner Cruz, just to clarify, this does still need to go through site plan approval, and EV charging stations are required at a rate of at least 2 per 50 parking spaces. So those at least, what is required by code will be required at site plan approval, your commitment to do more infrastructure ready.
Although state law may have changed.
You're right, it did recently. So I value your commitment.
However, we will absolutely be working with you at site plan to make sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I'll tell you, because I have seen people almost physically fighting for for electric vehicle charging stations. And I've seen it at our dog park, I've seen it at 500 Ocean, I've seen it everywhere. And I think that if we're gonna be building, I think that's something that we should definitely keep in mind.
And I have a Tesla, and that was me this morning fighting for a charger.
Yep, thank you. All right, and we've discussed this as well, but I wanted to make sure that we had enough parking in itself for all the units that are gonna be there, so the parking that you're gonna be providing meets code.
So I believe it meets the live local provisions of code, is that correct, Amanda? I don't want to say this wrongly.
Yeah, so the Live Local does allow for some flexibility when it does come to parking. They did provide a parking analysis as part of this review. And again, the details of exactly what parking will be provided will be part of the site plan submittal.
I think it's
But
100.
we do have 154
Yes.
that are shown on the plan that I showed you.
So that will be the minimum. Since it is posted within the master plan, we're going to review based on all the minimum requirements that have been integrated into the master plan. So as we go through site plan and refine the site plan further, if we can get more on there, staff will advocate for it.
I
If
would
not,
definitely
we will
encourage more
have.
parking.
Absolutely.
All right, and then the last thing, with regard to my questions is setbacks. I know you talked about it, and you guys are providing setbacks, but I wanted to make sure that the apartments that are gonna be obviously 3 stories are not infringing on the privacy of the, the 1-story, single-family homes. So I wanted to see if we could, make sure that we find a way to enhance privacy and provide a hedge buffer. I don't know if this is something that's already been provided.
If I may, yeah, like Amanda said, at time of site planning, we would require the project to have a landscape buffer, very dense landscape buffer along the west side and north side. And the applicant, well, the master plan shows good enough space.
That's high enough to protect
yeah,
the privacy of the
Yeah.
single-family homes in the area.
Yeah, we can require possibly multiple layers and in between the trees, yeah.
And just to give you a sense of the distance between the north property line and the building, I'm showing on our data sheet, and again, it is a site plan, and that these may fluctuate slightly, but I think it's about 124 feet that the building face is from the northern property limits. So it's a significant distance, but all of that will be contained through the site plan. You'll get to see it again.
Thank you so much. And then the positive note that I had on here was affordable housing. 100% of the units that are being provided here are affordable housing, which I know the entire county lacks it, and our city lacks it as well. So I see that that's the benefit to the new site. I wanted to see if we would consider providing potentially earlier marketing to Boynton Beach residents and or city residents. I know we have a lot of teachers, we have a lot of workers that we know a lot of workers in the city might not be able to afford living in the city. So if we could market that to our local residents as well as potentially, teachers and government workers, that would be something that I would appreciate.
Absolutely. It's been done before. We'll follow the same practices that you've used with other developers that have given the city an opportunity to send their employees over or advertise to friends and family of the city. That's fine.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hay, your turn.
I want to thank Commissioner Cruz for asking those questions, because those a lot of ones I just crossed them off my list as you were discussing. But we've had a discussion, Bonnie and Jonathan, about this, and I really appreciate your response to the question that I was asking. I thought one time of delaying this so we have a full council to discuss this, because this is long term, and this is good stuff here, and we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to have their input. Since then, I've heard enough from Amanda and staff and from you guys to move forward, and the community is ready to move. They're ready to see some shovels in the ground. But I would like to say that I'm very happy about the 100% affordable housing. That's something that we really do need, and this was somewhat an interesting project because the approach was entirely different from anything that I've seen before in terms of how we approached it, and that was explained by staff, and I understand better now why that is. And the deed restriction, I go along with that 100%. I would like to ask if, and that's probably legal, but I think I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. If for some reason the ownership of that property changed hand, is the deed restriction still intact?
That's correct. It would run with the land, and it could not be terminated without the consent of the city. So whoever, although we know that the person that will be doing it is standing next to me, but in the event something happened and someone came back in and wanted to do something different, they would have to get your consent to do something different than what the restriction says, or it could not be terminated.
And that's anything other than what we agreed to put on that property, it would have to come back to
Yeah,
us.
if it's not 89 units and it's not 100% affordable and it's more than 3 stories, they would need your consent.
Okay. I did want to ask a question about the accessibility from the canal from one side to the other. Is the only access going to be along Seacrest, or is there going to be some type of walkway other than getting from the park to the project?
To this project, and it is very close, but you do have to go across Seacrest. Yes, it would be very difficult to do a pedestrian bridge over a canal of that size. Not impossible, but very difficult. However, the beauty about this potential path that we're proposing that would be available to the public is that if the city can continue that on all the way west to the next intersection, you give yourself and all of the community in between the ability to not get on the public streets to get to those bridge connections. It's a huge win. It's a safer scenario, and hope, there are some grant monies out there for those types of pedestrian and bike connections. So we're kind of the beginning of that, and it's a very large beginning for you because it's such a long parcel. You have an opportunity there to extend that even further west over time.
Okay. Assuming everything goes according to plan, which it seems to be, what's your timetable, roughly? All pockets.
Well, it depends on approvals. Typically, a project like this takes 14 to 16 months to build. And we'll go as fast as we can. The faster we get approved, the faster we can get a shovel in the ground, and the faster we can get residents of Boynton Beach living here.
Okay. If you would go back to one of your slides where you had the parking, there were vehicles in the parking, right here, that. There seems to be double parking there where someone could park behind the other vehicle, and if they had an emergency, need to get out, that's problematic.
There are some tandem parking spaces within the site plan, and those spaces are allocated pursuant to lease. So for example, if you had a 3-bedroom, then you're likely to be allocated a tandem space. But they've done it before. I'm
Yeah,
gonna let Jonathan talk about it.
Each 2-bedroom and each 3-bedroom is allocated 1 tandem space. So you're not going to be sharing a tandem space with another unit.
Okay, and you do have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom there.
Correct. That's correct.
So
Can you give me a
the,
little breakdown as to?
yes. So the total 2 and 3 bedroom number is 37 plus 18, so you're at 55 units. So what Jonathan is saying is for those units, they would get tandem spaces. They would get their 2 spaces.
2 spaces.
So for example, if it was a husband and wife or partners, they would be sharing the 1 space, and they just have to coordinate who's in the back space.
Right, just like not having a circle driveway.
That's right. If you have a
home.
singular driveway, you have to do the same thing.
I got you. Okay, very good, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Turkin.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I would be inconsistent if I didn't complain about the potential rezoning. You know, I do think the project is very nice, and I think this is one of those situations where when you have workforce housing, and for the public to know, we're not talking about lower income housing, we're talking about workforce, which is majority of people that live in the city, your firefighters, police officers, teachers. And I do want to commend the pastor for the sale of this property. I think the mayor hit it on the head, is you're taking initiative and being a leader, and not just the county, but the state as well. So thank you, sir. You know, for the density, so the site is 2.97 acres. That's correct. And we're looking at 89 units.
Correct.
30 units an acre roughly. So I just want to remind my colleagues that there was a project approved literally on the other side of those doors right there. That's 490 plus units, right? And we're concerned about, you know, the single family home characteristics. You know, that's great. I wish that concern was when we had that discussion in all these previous projects in the downtown. As far as the infrastructure goes and the traffic, what traffic, and with the county, they do a traffic study and they're graded. They grade the study, I believe A through F. What was the grade on that?
So Seacrest Boulevard is actually level service B in this area.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. So I think the city's requirement, if I'm not mistaken, I had discussed this a long time ago, is a D. Is that correct?
Yes.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so thank you for, you know, going above and beyond what the city's standard is. I think that's something that I actually brought up before, and there was no appetite for that. And so I'm going to bring that up again, you know, looking at if we really want to combat traffic, and I'm sorry I'm going on a tangent here, you know, I'm looking at a problem as a whole. If we really are concerned about traffic and we really are concerned about the overdensity, then we need to establish rules and policies in place that mitigate that, right? Traffic study grading, a minimum being one of those things. You know, but as far as this goes, I mean, you know, I said it on our gender workshop. This is Commissioner Hayes' district. I'm going to support what he thinks is best. And I do think the workforce housing component is super appetizing. And, you know, thank you for investing in Boynton Beach, and, you know, having that community meeting, partnering with the church, I think is huge. You know, that's the one thing I always admire is when you have a developer, you know, or someone that has an interest, you know, in building in the city, to come reach out to the community first. And that way there's no surprises, right? Last thing we want to see is a bait and switch. And so that leads me to my thanks for the deed restriction. That was my number one concern was, you know, could we get denser? And you've alleviated that for me. So, you know, I'm happy to support this project under all those conditions.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. We are now going to proceed to voting. If I recall correctly, we're going to vote on items B and C, the development order for the variance and for the new master plan at the second reading. Is that correct? Do you remember that correctly? Okay, and under item 8A, there's actually two separate ordinances here for the two different purposes, but related. So let's tackle them one by one. This is proposed ordinance number 24-024. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hay. Is there a second? And a second from Commissioner Turkin. Let's turn now to the city clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Hay?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin? Yes. Commissioner Cruz?
No.
Absent. Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
And roll call vote, the motion passed 3.
3 out of 3.
3.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. The next proposed ordinance number 24-025, again, another first reading. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
A motion from Commissioner Hay and a second from?
Second.
All right, from Commissioner Turkin. We have a motion and a second. City Clerk?
Commissioner Hay?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin? Yes. Commissioner Cruz is absent. Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
And roll call vote, the motion passed. Motion passed.
Okay, motion passes. With that, thank you so much, everybody, to the applicants and to staff. The two remaining items,
I believe they need to be tabled until the next meeting.
yes, we'll vote on it on the second reading. All right, items 8A, may I have a motion to table to the
moved.
second reading? We have a
Second.
motion, and the second came from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of tabling item 8B to the second reading, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to table item 8C to
So
the
moved.
next,
Second.
to the second reading? We have a motion and a second from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We'll address those at second reading. Okay, so we're going to move on to regular agenda. We're very close to finishing up for the evening. We have 3 more items. This is proposed ordinance number 24-026. Again, another first reading. Let me turn to City Clerk.
1 second.
10A. I believe this is the ordinance to fix the Scrivener's error. Yeah.
Proposed ordinance number 24-026, first reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, correcting a Scrivener's error in the legal description contained in ordinance 23-021, approving the abandonment of the 30-foot wide unimproved right-of-way established on the Palm Beach Farms Co. Plat Number 8, as recorded in Plat Book 5, page 73 of the Public Records of the Palm Beach County, authorizing the mayor to execute an amended disclaimer which shall be recorded with the ordinance in the Public Records of the Palm Beach County, Florida, providing an effective date and for all purposes.
All right, thank you, Maylee. Are there any questions on this item? Council, did you have anything to add? My colleagues, do you have any questions for council? Okay, with that, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor of the, let's turn to City Clerk, let's do the roll call. The second was made by Commissioner Turkin, right? Okay.
Commissioner Hay?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Say
Yes.
Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. That concludes item 10A. We're now moving on to item 10B, discussion on leaving the banyan tree at Dewey Park lit up year-round. This was your request, Commissioner Turkin. You can kick it off unless you want to pass to staff.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of discussed this in our agenda workshop, and as far as the funding mechanism, I'm going to bring that up in a different forum, different board.
Okay.
I would like to know the cost impact of having it year-round versus what it is now. So you don't have to answer that now. Okay.
Something to look into.
When we do discuss.
Yeah. Yeah, the only comment I have about the lighting is that I know with the Christmas lights that people have used, it's for whatever reason, it just keeps breaking. But there are other kinds of lighting, so I just want to open that up to staff, look into other options.
Yeah, Mayor, I think that's absolutely right, because it's still going out. I think they fixed it like over the weekend and it still
Right.
went out.
Well, clearly, so they didn't really
Yeah.
fix it, right? So-
I agree.
And take a look at whether solar energy would be a up or down.
Solar.
Yeah, so that wouldn't cost very much.
All right, anything else on this item? Okay, I'll proceed. All right, 10C, discussion regarding the tennis court improvements and maintenance at Boynton Beach Tennis and Pickleball Center. Commissioner Cruz, this was your request. Kick it off for us.
Oh, I think,
Oh.
are you guys gonna present?
All right, if you're ready, go ahead. Is it on?
Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays. I'm Craig Clark, Director of Recreation and Cultural Services, and this is Fabian Derulo, Assistant Director. We're happy to be here this evening to give you an update on the Boynton Beach Tennis and Pickleball Center. Before Fabian gets started with the presentation, I just want to preface this with there's kind of a perfect storm of staffing changes that went on for several months. We lost our director and assistant director of Recreation and Parks back in February. We hired Fabian in May, and then I was promoted June 1st as Recreation is one of my 5 departments that I oversee. And then once we got our feet wet, we determined and learned from the public as well that there were issues at the tennis center with maintenance. So I'm going to let Fabian go ahead and start the presentation, and then I'm going to finish with there were a couple of other proposals from outside firms that are interested in taking over the center if you were to move in that direction.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Commission, staff, and members of the public. We put together a brief presentation just to discuss kind of a little bit of the history of the facility, what has taken place over the course of the past couple months, and kind of the plan moving forward for this facility. First, at this facility, we have 17 hard true tennis courts, which are clay courts essentially, 6 pickleball courts, and 2 composite tennis courts, which are essentially hard courts. The staffing at the facility are 1 full-time tennis center supervisor, which we just brought on board about 2 months ago, 2 full-time tennis center maintenance workers, which just started at the end of October. Those are 2 new positions, and 3 part-time pro shop attendants. We currently have 2 vacancies, but we are looking to fill those vacancies at the moment. So just a little bit of background on the staffing. The tennis center supervisor, as I mentioned, just got started late summer. August 26th was his first day on the job, and really hit the ground running. There was substantial, challenges that we faced with the transition of the maintenance team, as well as some other things that we'll get into in this presentation. The maintenance workers were brought on after the hiring freeze, so they started October the 21st. And we opened up November the 4th, so not too much of a turnaround time for them to be able to get everything in order, but they got a good amount of the courts in good shape and playable for the reopening. A little bit of background of the facility maintenance. We were being maintained by a company called PTCS from January 2022 until we got a 30-day notice late summer that they will no longer be servicing our courts there at that facility. We know that prior to recently, there were complaints, dating back to last year about some of the maintenance, and we had our concerns with the organization. We spoke to them about it. Things weren't really improving, and then, they kind of left us with short notice, which kind of eliminated all staff that were maintaining the facility there, as well as all the equipment. So tens of thousands of dollars of equipment also left with the organization leaving. The last day of service that they had with us is August the 31st. And it was determined that the best course of action, based off of the fact that we were lacking the staff and the equipment to maintain this facility properly, because this type of facility has to be maintained regularly, especially the clay courts. The decision was made to do a facility closure so we can take care of some of the maintenance items as well as get staff onboarded to be able to fill some of these positions to operate the facility. The removal of the nets took place on September the 6th. And September the 9th, it was determined that we would need to extend the closure because everything wouldn't have been ready for the October 1 reopening as initially planned. We received the hard true material September the 19th, which is the clay material in order to resurface the 17 hard true courts and continue to do research on the best way of resurfacing this facility. Recreation manager and supervisor began their preparation of the courts shortly after. Of course, we had 2 storms that came through the area around that time as well, too. So that kind of halted a little bit of the maintenance process that we were planning to take a course in. So removing the nets, all the windscreens, things like that, getting all the facility and the furniture on site prepared for the pending storms that were looking to be headed our way. We did all the assessments after that. Luckily, we didn't have too much damage at that facility. We brought our tennis maintenance workers, as mentioned before, on board October the 21st. And then we had an outage. Unfortunately, a major transformer went out, affecting our property as well as the surrounding properties for 3 days on November the 1st, which delayed our opening to the 4th, which was that following Monday. So just for the reopenings, October the 8th, we had 6 courts playable. So we had the Women's Tennis Association, the local Women's Tennis Association, playing during closure because we did not want to impact their season. So they essentially had exclusive usage of the facility for 6 courts to have their home matches there at the site at the Boynton Tennis Center and Pickleball Center. November the 2nd, the 6 pickleball courts reopened. And then our opening day, we had the 6 clay courts and 6 pickleball courts open for usage. By the end of November, we had 10 clay courts, 6 pickleball courts, and the 2 composite courts open. And then currently, to the point we are right now, we have 13 clay courts. So 13 out of our 17 are open and in great shape. They've been resurfaced, things like that, made sure we had the lining in order, all nets put back up, and all type of maintenance needs taken care of, as well as the 6 pickleball courts and 2 composite courts. We're projected to have all courts up and running by the end of the year, the calendar year here. So we're on track to have everything completed. Just so you guys know, the attendance for November after reopening, we had 279 court reservations. So we're back full speed. So here are some shots of the facility. These were taken just last week, just so you guys can get an idea of the state of some of the courts. We apologize for some of the shading in some of those images too. It's casting some shade from some of the trees nearby, but the courts are in fantastic shape, especially from where we came before. And we included some before and after pictures so you guys can get a real idea of what it looked like and where we are now. There's more of a sky view from the drone shots that we took of the courts also. Again, these took place last week. Some before and afters. Before, to the left-hand side there, from August, we had some plants growing. We have major irrigation issues, some of which have been addressed, and we're still working through some of them. But that led to some of this growth that is taking place on the court, as well as some of the mildew that was taking place. And after, we had, in partnership with Public Works, as well as the new staff that we brought on board, they were able to alleviate a lot of the issues we had out there. And you can see there's a major, major improvement on what the court states are. And pretty much all of the courts are looking like that. We just had about, I'd say, 4 of them that were looking like the ones on the left-hand side, so those have been taken care of. Some growth from outside of the fenceways, too. We had all of that taken care of by staff also. We know that was a major concern, so we made sure that that was addressed immediately when we had staff on board. This as well, too. Some of the sand from under the pathways around the facility were kind of leaking onto the courts and mixing with the hard true material. So we worked in tandem with Public Works to get the issues, the source of the issue addressed, and then staff took it upon themselves to take care of all of the mixing of the sand and getting the courts in good shape again. the future of the facility. So we have a 5-year CIP proposal to look to address a lot of the concerns that we have as it pertains to irrigation, court maintenance, and things like that, and getting us to a modern space of having all of our courts under the hydro system, which means that they'll be watered from underground instead of over the surface as we currently have most of our courts at the site. So starting in 2025, we're looking into getting a FERDAP grant for $400,000 with a small, I think it's what, 50% city match?
$200,000 match.
$200,000 match, so that'd be $600,000 to invest into this facility. Year one, going into this 5-year plan, we're looking to address 4 of the hydro courts with the new installation of the irrigation underground, as mentioned before. We're looking to do some pro shop renovations. That facility is pretty dated and not up to speed with a lot of our neighbors and some other facilities that we had a chance to go and check out over the past couple months. So we're really looking to hone in on that and provide a good space where folks can check in, as well as potentially some space where they can reserve for any type of functions that they're looking to do at the site. Restroom renovations, potentially moving some things around the property too, so it flows a little bit better and allows us to secure this property a little bit better, because anybody that's been there notices that there's probably about 20 different ways to enter this facility, which of course is a security concern. Upgrading some of the furnishings out there too, as well as the shade structures, tables, chairs, awnings, lighting, benches, as well as the storage shed that we have out there, and fencing, as I mentioned before, to secure the facility. Laser grading and relining the courts just to make sure that they're graded correctly. That's something that we have to do every so often too. So that is something we're looking to do next year, as it's been about 3.5 years since the last time we did so. 2027, same thing, 4 additional courts, getting them up to hydro irrigation system, doing the actual construction, so in 26 design and potentially construction in 27. The parking lot needs a little bit of TLC out there too, so we're hoping to do some resurfacing and some new landscaping in that space. Court resurfacing, as I mentioned before, it was done about 3 years ago, so by then, and we did some resurfacing over the closure too, but by then we'll probably need to really do some revamping with the surfacing of the clay courts, as well as installing LED lighting for efficiency, as well as giving us remote control of the timing of the lights, setting them on timers, things like that, or being able to turn them on and off remotely using the Musco system. And then 28 and 29, addressing the last 8 courts, getting them on the hydro irrigation system. And that is it. Those are our hours of operation up there, in case anybody is curious, and we are here to answer any questions. Let me make sure there's no more. Yep, that's it.
Gentlemen, thank you for your presentation.
Very welcome.
Commissioner Cruz, I'll turn this to you since this was your request.
Thank you. Thank you both for your presentation and for the conversations that we've had after the agenda review. I think one of the things that we talked about was the ability, the improvements that we still need to make, and also the potential opportunity to turn 2 of the hard courts into potentially 6 pickleball courts. Correct. Do we have any data and this is just basically public knowledge, everybody knows that pickleball's like become really popular, but do we have any data with regard to the pickleball courts versus the tennis courts and the usage of it? Like, are the pickleball ones always sold out or not available?
Absolutely. I can answer to that. Yeah. Yes, so just in conversations with staff over there at site, the 2 hard courts at that particular facility don't get a ton of usage. The pickleball courts are very busy. There's high demand for that across the city as well as across the country. But we're gonna continue to monitor and get some actual data and numbers based off of usage. If we recognize that the hard courts are not getting a ton of usage, especially since we have about 12 more around the city also, we'll look to convert those into 6 pickleball courts.
Thank you, and I don't know what for the city manager, I don't know what the process would be to potentially see if we can do that in the future. But if we have significant wait times for the pickleball courts, and we can maybe potentially transfer those to pickleball in the future, I think that's something that it's become so popular that there's just not enough. And it's been on newspapers, it's been on social media, it's just been everywhere.
No, I agree. Obviously, that's, as far as the process, I guess it would be essentially market-driven. What's the demand versus the demand for the tennis courts, so.
We can certainly get pricing on that as well. Mayor, there is one more thing I wanted to mention before, if I may. There was a proposal received from a local tennis company that Andrew Mack gave us direction to review. We reviewed the proposal and we went to another local government where the tennis company had taken over their tennis courts, which were very nice and very well run. The proposal, Fabian and I looked at it closely. It was a 10-year contract, and that would tie our business up for 10 years, and we didn't think that was very good. Then they submitted a second proposal that over 3 years they would do some revenue sharing with us, and during that time we also received a separate proposal from another outside company that was interested in taking over and running and managing our tennis courts. So I just wanted to bring that up to you as well, and we're certainly open to direction on how you want us to proceed. We'd certainly be willing to, we want to turn this around, bring in more revenue. Getting the hydro courts, we won't have to close the tennis courts down in the afternoon because you have to water them. When you water them from underground, you don't have to close them, so open to any direction.
Craig, thank you for clarifying that. As of now, I don't think I've seen either of those two proposals. I'm not exactly sure what services they're providing, but I know you have them. Have you compiled the data for us to assess?
I can certainly do that. One of the proposals was not clear on monetary issues. They just said we would do this, we would do that. So I can certainly share those proposals with you. We spoke to Andrew and the manager of purchasing, and he said since there was maybe more than one company, that maybe an RFP, if you went in that direction, would be the appropriate way to go. But that's up to the commission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested in reading. I'm sorry, Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, no, I mean, during our conversations, I think we talked about how the city's currently spending about $60,000, is it, a year?
70, yeah.
$70,000?
We were upside down 70,000, but we're going to turn
Gotcha.
that around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're currently upside down $70,000 a year for the maintenance and management of the courts. I think it's worth a shot to take a look to see what options are out there. But if we do that, I think that we should do an RFP and a competitive bidding process. I think that would be the right thing to do. And then at the same time, comparing that to our current costs of seeing what we're paying right now, we're $70,000 under, like losing money. If we have an opportunity where they might, somebody might be able to cover costs potentially. Again, I haven't seen any of the proposals that we're talking about, or any that might come in if we decide to move in that direction. And also looking at what it's costing us, our staff, benefits, all of that, with the ability of the courts, the maintenance, the repairs, the potential change from the hard courts to 6 pickleball courts, all of that, it's something that we should definitely consider and see not only a cost benefit, but look at efficiency. So I would be open to, if the board agrees, to take a look at a potential RFP just to see what's out there, what opportunities are out there, with some potential revenue share. If we do move forward in that direction, it would be good to have somebody who's had government or, public sector experience, somebody who's had significant experience specifically with these types of sports, like racket sports. And significant experience would mean, at least like five contracts or, something where you do this a lot and you're an expert at it. I think that's something that would be important to look at. Obviously, if we have consensus from the board to move forward in that direction, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else? That was it?
I think that's it for now, yeah.
All right. I am interested in reading these proposals. I'm open. If it can solve a problem, I'm open to it, but I need to see them first. All right. Commissioner Hay, your questions or thoughts?
No, I too would be supportive, but I need to see some pros and cons. Why would we want to do that? And if it's to our advantage, then yes, but right now, I don't see it. Maybe it's a manpower thing, I don't know, but you tell me at the next meeting that we have, okay? That's all I have. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. A quick question on the operating hours. Out of curiosity, why is it closed at 1 on the weekends when I feel like that would be prime time because a lot of people aren't working? I mean, in the wintertime too, right?
Yeah, so we tend
Are
to get.
these operating hours year-round? Do they change with the season?
Yeah, no, they're year-round. That's
Okay.
correct. So we tend to get most of our patrons in the morning.
Okay.
The days that we do stay open a bit late is when we tend to have like our men's leagues, women's leagues, and things like that play later into the evening. But those all take place during the week. Outside of that, drop-in players, things like that, especially a lot of our pickleballers as well, tend to come in the morning. So I know in the past, those hours were a little bit longer. Staff were recognizing that we weren't getting people for the last like 3-4 hours that we were open. So it only made sense to kind of consolidate a little bit. But it's something that we can continue to explore too. You know, that's something that can change and fluctuate through time. Absolutely.
So the last 3 or 4 hours, you said, is when you weren't seeing a lot of
Correct.
use?
Correct.
So then
Yes,
that would
that's right.
be, I mean, if we looked at 9 o'clock, it'd be like 5 o'clock, 5 or 6 o'clock. But to go down to 1 PM, you know, I think it's a little bit dramatic. I would like to see those operating hours expand. That's just me. Before I start, I just want to thank you both for all your hard work, not just on this, but with everything. Fabian, I know you're newer. Thank you so much for everything you've done. You hit the
appreciate
ground
it.
running.
Thank
You got on the, you know, whether it was vandalism or whatever happened with the dog park, you know, signage and over there. Thank you so much for getting on that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I agree with what's been said. I think there's an opportunity to produce an ancillary revenue source and allow a vendor to maybe do something that, you know, maybe not necessarily we're experts at, right? And alleviate your guys' bandwidth. If there's one department that I think could always use more money and more resources and more staffing, it's Parks and Rec, right? There's always something. The residents see that. It's a subjective department. They see the parks. They notice if there's inadequacies, you know what I mean? And so, you know, I look at this as like a win-win-win situation, right? We can, you know, first and foremost, produce some revenue, you know, lessen the burden on the taxpayers, lessen the workload on Parks and Rec. Obviously, it's got to make sense. You know, I'd like, whether we look at the proposals or do an RFP, I'm indifferent. You know, I would like to see, you know, what the best deal is and provide an additional revenue source for the city. You know, ultimately, we do this enough times, time and time again, throughout multiple departments. We have the ability to continue to lower our millage rate, right, and cut costs, and then focus on other CIB projects. So I would like to investigate and direct staff to, you know, look at a potential vendor.
Yeah, it looks like he's
Real
finished. Commissioner Cruz?
Yep, no, thank you for that. No, I just wanted to follow up with like focusing on efficiency and revenue share and thinking about how much it's costing us and how much are we losing? Like if we're losing $70,000 a year running it currently, then is that something where we could turn it around and potentially do a revenue share? But again, we can't get into the nitty-gritty details of anything until, you know, I think the best way to really see if it would even be worth it or not would be to maybe open up for an RFP and see what we receive. And if it turns out that it's not something that it's good, then we won't go forward with it. But if it turns out that it is something good, that would benefit the city and, you know, not have that loss, like revenue loss. And also being able to update the courts and change it to pickleball and all that. And as you said, extending the hours, I think.
How many
extending the
years
hours
do
would
we
be
go
good.
back as far as that the tennis court facilities have been in a deficit? I know we only talked about year one. What's been the previous 3 years? Do you guys have those numbers?
We don't have them currently on us.
Have we
can send that
ever,
over to you guys.
like, either been in the black or the green at all? Or have we consistently stayed in the red?
It has been operating at a loss for the past couple years, the years that we looked into.
So essentially,
were
you're,
also-
you're running a deficit as a business.
Yes, yes, but we were also paying a substantial amount of money to have PTCS maintaining this facility also too. So that's something to take into consideration also. We were paying them approximately $80,000.
So do you guys have any numbers as far as the revenue shares? Did you guys bring those tonight, or do you not have them?
We do have
I'm
them.
trying
We
to
can
get
send
like
them. Yeah, we can
versus
send them
the
directly.
deficit that we were running over the past few years of $60,000-$70,000, whatever. What would be the positive if you brought in a vendor to actually take over the operation of the tennis court? Because obviously, if we're going to be having a revenue revenue share,
yes,
not only are you correcting the deficit, but you're also going to be turning essentially revenue and income for the city.
Yes, correct. So the most recent proposal that we got, there was a rent factor to it too, so that is guaranteed income that we would get from that, as well as a percentage of profit share. These are numbers, as Craig mentioned before, that we think that we can reach with some of the new programming that we have listed right there at the top too. So we do feel like we do potentially have the ability to get similar numbers to this by running the operation in-house. This comes with some additional insurances. So there's that benefit for going to this direction too. So it really kind of depends on if we want to kind of look at this for a year and see how things kind of go with this new kind of staff setup that we have, or do we want to kind of play it a little bit more safe and go in this direction? It's pretty much the two options we have before us.
Yeah, the model from the one company, the second proposal they sent, they had based on estimated numbers, obviously, the first year rent, 60,000, second year, 72,000, year three, 96,000, and then there would be a revenue split of gross revenues each year of first year 1%, second year 1%, third year 2%. That's what I calculated.
And those aren't based off performance metrics or matrix or anything.
Those are
like
based
that.
off of estimates.
So that's guaranteed income that would be coming in no matter what.
It's based on their revenues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is based off the revenues of
It's based off their revenues.
What I would say is, just to kind of be fair, I think it's worth a shot to see what proposals we get. Maybe, I would say, if the board agrees, let's give it a 30-day window to do an RFP to see what we receive, if anything at all. It's possible we get nothing. It just depends. So if we do a 30-day window where we open it up for competitive bidding and seeing what we receive and seeing the revenue share, how much money we would be comparing it to what we're losing now to how it could be in the future, and really getting the numbers, looking at operating hours, as Commissioner Turkin stated earlier. I think those are things that are valid to take a look at, and then we can circle back, and then maybe staff can provide a recommendation after that 30-day review, if that's something that the board agrees to.
Andrew?
Yes, sir. One of the things that we did notice that when initial proposal that came in, one of the vendors proposed actually renovating the courts, which significantly impacted the revenue. When we met with them, we talked about potentially doing the court renovations in-house, or not in-house, but with through our CIP projects, and then allowing them, and then do it phased over a certain period of time, which is similar to what they had proposed in the second proposal. I just want to make sure that in either scenario, that you guys are comfortable with us moving forward with the renovations, and then we'd just be looking for a vendor. Because there is also potential to include the renovations in this as well and get it from the open market, but it would significantly impact the term of the agreement, which is why they were asking for 10 years, because they were going to invest $1 million into our facility to renovate the courts, which the hydro courts are the most significant thing that we need to do there.
And if we can potentially get a grant to cover that, then that would
That
reduce our
was
cost.
the other, correct, yeah.
Okay.
And I think staff felt like they were significantly thought they could get that grant. That was a very high probability.
I think there's a high probability we can get the grant.
I would defer to, if staff, whatever staff's recommendation is, if you think it's a good idea to include that on there.
I think it's something that once we get a vendor, we would work with them in tandem to make sure that the courts that we're renovating suit their needs as well. So obviously this wouldn't happen in a vacuum. It would be done in tandem with any approach that we had. I just wanted to make sure that we're comfortable that we would move forward with the CIP to renovate the courts and then work with the vendor.
All right. Let me just jump in and say, in general, using CIP, that's perfectly fine with me. But gentlemen, I have no idea what both of you are talking about, all three of you, okay? So I know you're reading off your pages and you're telling us numbers. Let's sit down together, let's do a deep dive, because I haven't seen these things.
And I think that's why
Okay.
it's better to get some proposals so we can look at them and maybe have staff review, maybe get a recommendation, because we don't know what we're looking at right now.
If possible, maybe Fabian and Craig could set up one-on-ones with each of you, go through what we've gotten so far, get some notes, and then
That's
we
my
can look,
intention.
and we could look through it, and then we'd have a good reflection of what we'd like to do in the RFP.
Yeah.
I think that would clear up some of your questions, yeah. Just an FYI, the grant application for the next grant cycle would be due September of 2025, and those dollars will come to us the following year in 2026. So just so you know that.
Anything else from my colleagues? All right, it sounds like we're finished, finally. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate the presentation, gentlemen.
Our pleasure, thank you.
If there's nothing else from my colleagues, we have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
We have a motion, is there a
Second.
second? We have a second. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a good
Christmas,
night.
Happy New Year, Feliz Navidad,
Yes.
Happy Kwanzaa.